Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Lots to talk about today. We're going to start pre-show, and we'll try to keep it short. I know people complain about the pre-shows being too long. Okay. More in football than more than anywhere else. This is a little bit of an annoyance to me. Everybody's going crazy right now about these big star players like Antonio Brown being traded to the Raiders or Odell Beckham Jr. yesterday being traded to the Browns. For a couple draft picks and a player. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I get the hype. But there is a reason why these guys are available. And it's not just that, they're looking for big money. It's also that they are problems with their particular teams. Odell Beckham Jr. is a big mouth and a pain in the butt.
But he's not a big enough problem that you should eat $16 million on your cap and lose who I deem the best receiver in the game. I think I think people don't call him the best receiver in the game, but that's because he has an old quarterback. Wait till you see him now.
I think that the Giants made the decision that we're rebuilding, so it makes no sense for us to have the highest paid receiver. And that I get, but I also think that what was questionable about them signing him last year on top of the the price tag was the fact that he's a good teammate, but he's a pain. He's he's a pain in the media. He does stuff on the field that is embarrassing to the organization sometimes. And Antonio Brown, obviously with his antics, and Le'Veon Bell with sitting out for an entire year. If these guys are good citizens and good football players, organizations aren't going to trade them or aren't going to make them available in free agency.
It's not always true. Like, all right, so in Bell's case, they didn't trade him. He held out. He didn't want to play because he thought he would get more money. It turns out he's getting less money with the Jets than he would have with the Steelers. So the market wasn't there like he thought it would be. So he took a gamble and he lost.
Well, yes and no. I think the motivation here, and everybody has been saying what you just said regarding, he didn't make his money back, so he's the loser in this situation.
Well, I'd say he's a loser. I'm just saying.
No. He is the loser in this situation. Not he is a loser. No, but what I'm saying is he knew that the Steelers were going to use him for a year. We're going to abuse him in his mind for a year. We're going to run him into the ground because they knew that they had no interest in signing him.
Right.
So it was an act of self-preservation. It was also an act of selfishness, but it was an act of self-preservation. I'm not going to play for them unless they give me long-term guaranteed money. And he said, and he made that out right away. And it's not going to. Oh, we got.
Oh, sorry, I backed out and then I had to go back into the chat.
Oh, okay. But I mean that was his viewpoint. Now he deserves criticism for that. He's selfish, but it's understandable that he would do that. Now he's got what, $52 million out of over 4 years.
39 guaranteed.
Yeah, so he's going to get 70% of that money guaranteed, whereas I don't know what he was getting guaranteed from the Steelers, but it was nowhere close to that.
No, it wasn't. He was just going to get like a 1 or 2 year offer, like 15 a year, and I don't know what was guaranteed on the 15. I don't know, whatever. He didn't take it. He went with the Jets. It's good for the Jets because Sam Darnold needs a safety valve. He needed a running back he could count on. Bilal Powell is really good, but he's been getting hurt the last few years. But he has been out for a year. We don't know if he'll play at the same level right away. If he does, great. It's a 4-year deal. I'm happy if they get 2 great seasons out of him. And then even if it turns into LaDainian Tomlinson as a Jet, it would be okay because that's what happens with running backs in this league. Like, they know it. I know it. You know it. So right now, it's more about developing the quarterback than it is what you worried about paying Le'Veon Bell because you didn't really pay him staggering money. So I think this is a big win for the Jets too.
Yeah, but the thing is, and we'll get off of this in a second here, is that, because the Jets and the Bills basically entered the offseason here looking for the same type of players in the same positions to support their young quarterbacks. And while the Bills' moves were not as sexy as the Jets, I know that there was a New York Post reporter who thought the Jets have hit it out of the ballpark. And I'm like, okay, where's their offensive line? Because you need to protect that quarterback.
Yeah.
And the Bills signed one of the top centers in free agency, and the Jets lost out on I think it was Paradis. Lost that he went to Carolina. I don't think they've really added an offensive lineman as of yet, unless they're waiting to pick in the draft.
They do have something going. No, there is a guy they're going to add, and then they added C.J. Mosley on defense as a linebacker. They needed that badly. Right. So I feel like they've done pretty well. I don't think they're done. They still have money to spend.
Sure.
So, but again, the worry is with this many free agents coming to a new team, it's hard to get cohesiveness in a short camp. So it might take 2 or 3 games for all of this to work out too.
And here's hope for Edmonton Oilers fans. The biggest laughing stock in football was the Cleveland Browns 2 years ago. And now they're not a laughing stock.
Football's different.
I mean, well, now it's like, okay, they've got their quarterback, they've got a couple of wide receivers, they got a running back. There's a lot of talent there. Now there's expectations, but there's a lot of talent in Edmonton. Problem is there's not enough talent. So anyway, okay, Eck will be joining us any second. We'll start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. I'll save the Eastern Conference machinations until Eck gets on. Oh, there you go.
He's coming.
Just perfect timing, Eck. I was just going to say I was going to save the Eastern Conference standings until you got on, but now that you're on, how about those Columbus Blue Jackets?
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday.
No. We already did it.
I know. Sorry, I was felling a tree. We had a tree that fell over, so I was in my backyard. Can anything go wrong with me and a chainsaw?
Well, it could with me and a chainsaw. That's why I'm using an axe. I'd rather use the axe.
Oh yeah, no, I'd kill myself with an axe.
No, I'm good with an axe. I use the axe now. But anyhow,
bro, you're out there taking a tree down with like it's falling down. You're taking it apart with an axe. So that's impressive.
Yeah, but I'm doing it 1 week at a time.
You're using a chainsaw. You're using an axe. I'm calling a tree service.
I tried that, but you know what tree services cost?
I do. I tried it. My guy didn't even come.
They're crazy expensive. It's like $1,200 to take this tree.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it was just ridiculous. I mean, it's something that fell down in one of the storms last week, and it's just kind of crazy. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Wow. I'm alive, which is amazing.
That's good.
Go ahead, Russ.
I was gonna say let's talk about the Blue Jackets because if you remember yesterday, I said that they played really well against the Islanders and they controlled the puck and they did everything but score. And lo and behold, the dam broke and they scored. And Boone Jenner got his first career hat trick. Like this is what I think was going to happen with Columbus because they got rewarded for their good play and for their puck possession and all of that. It just didn't show up that other game, but and I'm not telling you they're going to run the table, but I'm just telling you that this is what they're capable of now. And I think, 75% of the time, this is what they're going to do down the stretch.
This was it was a really good game for them. I mean, they gave up a lot of goals, but at the same time, they were pounding. It was a high scoring game. Boston definitely coming in off a they had this long streak, and it was a good setup for Columbus. Because Boston, the streak was just broken by the Penguins the other night. So usually, you get usually it's broken. It's like a couple games that'll be down after that. Right. So they played really well, and they got the shooting percentage has been the big thing with them. Their shooting percentage has been so terrible in Columbus, and last night they finally. So that tells you that they're getting chances. They're just getting some bad luck at times, and they're not getting good opportunities. So they're definitely going to turn. I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, no question down the stretch here.
Well, I mean, but. Yes, they could be. I think they're still. I mean, this is a sign that maybe they're settling in and getting used to each other because there was a lot of struggle there offensively, and that's sort of conducive with new line mates and new players coming in, and they score 7 goals. But I look at the situation with the Bruins, and maybe there's a chance for them to slip back a little bit. But their schedule, and I said this last week when I was looking at the schedules of both Toronto and Boston, after last week when the Bruins had a long streak at home, they were playing 10 of the last 14 games on the road. Yeah. And not that they're a bad road team, but they're over 500. But they've been extremely hot at TD Garden, and when you take them out of their element, it's a chance to, for Toronto to catch up. Now they have to win. They're playing Chicago tonight. They lost to Tampa on Monday, so we'll see what happens there. But going back to the race for the wild card in the East, what we talked about yesterday. I mean, great. The standings showed Philadelphia 3 points behind Columbus and Montreal. There's one spot left. Both of them won. And that's the thing. You don't need one team to collapse. You need two. And that's why the odds are so long.
Yeah, two of four. So you have two of three teams, basically.
Well,
Carolina.
I think Pittsburgh's out of range now.
No, Pittsburgh's out of range. I'm saying Carolina's still in range. Carolina's playing really well, but they are still in range. I agree. I mean, they're a long shot. They're a long shot to get in for sure. They're a long shot to fall out, but Carolina could fall out. I mean, that's this is. I'm not gonna chase this whole thing down again, but I just think that the Flyers. I mean, they're still they that's a game now. They have a game in hand on these teams, so it's like they're going to be back to. Obviously, they're going to have to win some games they're not supposed to win. And tomorrow night is going to be a huge one for them. They're going to have to win that game. They're going to have to beat Florida. They're going to have to beat Washington, which is really hard to do right now. Washington is a good team. Kind of like in my blog today, sort of kicks off the concept, and I thought we could talk about a little bit of the thought of what teams have the ability to turn a switch. Which is something that in the NHL we've seen some teams have the ability to do, and some teams have the ability that they can't do. Minnesota, St. Louis, they have not been able to do this in the playoffs. They haven't been able to turn that switch. Washington used to not be able to do it,
right?
But now Capitals, last year kind of learned how to do it, so they've done it lately. The Capitals are playing at a different level.
By you saying turning the switch, are you saying a team that's struggling going into the playoffs and just turns it on like that?
Not necessarily struggling, but a team that has that finds another level that the Capitals were playing okay, but now they're playing unbelievably. The Sharks were playing okay, now they're playing unbelievably. It's a playoff level that teams find. Sometimes in the past, it was some Penguins were playing, and it's not often that a team just turns it on in the playoffs. It's usually in the last month of the season. This is what. We've seen the Penguins when they won their Stanley Cups. Penguins were having rough years, you remember. But the last month of the season of those years, they would be really good, and they would go into the playoffs really playing very well. And Nashville is an example. Nashville finished 8th in the conference the year they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they had a switch that they turned on in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. One team. I'll go the negative, obviously. One team that I don't think does. What's that?
I would expect nothing less, Mike.
There you go. One team that I think does not have another gear is the Islanders. I think they're playing their best right now. I think they're obviously going to finish first or second in the Metro. They should be applauded for what they've done. But I think they're playing. It's sort of like Barry Trotz in Nashville back in the day when he had Suter and he had Weber, but there was not a lot of offense around. And I don't think Islanders have Suter or Weber, but I think they have a certain level of decent players. But I think they're playing all out right now, and I don't see them ascending to a higher level when it gets to the first round of the playoffs. I think they are what they are, and if they come up against the wrong opponent, I think they're going to lose.
Go ahead, Russ.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's true about the Islanders. I'm not even sure they're coming in first or second. I think Pittsburgh will overtake them. Washington's already overtaken them. Pittsburgh's just too hot. Everything's clicking for them. The McCann trade, the Bukestad trade, the Peter Pedersen trade, Schultz back. Everybody can pick apart the Penguins for most of the year, but the Penguins team you see now, nobody wants to play in the playoffs, including Tampa. Nobody would want to play them.
And that is another thing that I put in my blog today. That is the sign of a team that everybody knows can turn a switch. Is you often will say nobody wants to play them in the playoffs. That's the kind of thing that you hear all the time. No one wants to play Nashville in the playoffs because they're a tough team to play. For the years it was Chicago, right? You don't want to play Chicago in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think while it makes sense that the Islanders have overachieved throughout the regular season, I harken back to Vegas of last year, where we said, okay, Vegas, I kept saying my whole argument for Vegas would be that, and you guys know this. I kept saying they're not going to be able to do this in the playoffs because they've been playing at the absolute highest level they can. There's no way they can get in higher, and they proved us wrong. I mean, they found another level in the playoffs.
Right.
So I think the younger a team is, the more unpredictable this whole thing is, and I think that's why I think with Vegas being a young, they weren't really
young. They're not a young team.
They weren't last year, but but I think that with the Islanders and Barry Trotz, I would say that the typical thing with Barry Trotz is early Predators teams, which this Islanders team feels like, was that they weren't really able to turn that switch on in the playoffs. The Predators had a tough time in the playoffs their first several years. They would make the playoffs, but they would have a tough time doing it there.
Because their best forward was Patrick Hornquist or David Legwand. They really didn't have a deep offense. They had great defensemen and good goaltending, but they didn't have enough offense. And I think that, strangely enough, that's what the Islanders have a good goaltender who's had a sort of renaissance season in Leonard. I think they're decent offensively, but not great. Their defense is okay, but not great. They're playing the system and they're playing it well. But the thing is that usually when teams step up in the postseason, you can't simply just play your system and hope to win.
Right.
You need to raise your level. Now, thing is, I like using Vegas. Honestly, if I'm Calgary or San Jose, I'm super motivated to finish in first place in the Pacific for the specific purpose of not playing Vegas. Because if you play Vegas and you're Calgary, they have with either one of those teams. Vegas has the better goaltending. I think both Calgary and San Jose have better defenses. Vegas has been hot, and they're now with Pacioretty and Stone and Stastny and the guys that they had last year. I would be scared to death to play them in the first round.
Yeah, they are. I mean, because they have that thing. They definitely have that thing that makes you wonder if they can surprise you all of a sudden. And I agree.
True.
I mean, I think now I will say this about Vegas. This is kind of interesting. Last night, my done another good night predicting games, but the interesting thing about this whole thing was the way things broke last night has now put Vegas possibly on the outside looking in the playoffs, which is still not. It's not impossible. They played very well. They have a very tough schedule for them down the stretch.
They have 81 points in 70 games. Dallas is in the other division, so they don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Arizona is 75 with 70 games, so they're 6 points ahead. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not likely.
Well, it's not. Well, it depends on it depends how well they play, because lately they haven't played all that. I mean, they've been up and down. They've been.
I'm not taking. Fleury has not been up and down. The team may have been.
I'm not taking anything away from Arizona, because I said yesterday that Tocchet should be considered for coach of the year because of what he's done with a team that's devastated by injuries. But unless a lot of players are coming back, I don't know. I don't know how they keep this going. I guess I have to be a believer because they've continued to do this through 70 games, and right now they're in a playoff spot. And nobody would have expected that with losing Stepan, losing Ranta, and a number of other players that they've lost. But they're still there. But it's one thing to get the second wild card. It's another to catch Vegas and finish third place in the division.
Right.
I think that's a bridge too far.
Could be. But they are not. I mean, it's not. They're not as assured as they once were of this. There's definitely some options. I mean, I think that
in the West, there's so many teams now. It's like
I know, and they're kind of going at me. We didn't even put them into the grouping yesterday, and I probably should have, because they're only 1 point ahead of that group. So it's feasible that they fall back into that group as well. So the West is going to be crazy. It's going to be a crazy rundown.
Oh, we do have breaking news. Not a shock. Jakub Voracek's out another game. We knew that. We knew Bettman was going to change his mind. I thought the right thing to do would be knock it down one, but he didn't do it.
Well, this is the fault of the current system. The Department of Player Safety finds Voracek guilty of what he did to Boychuk, and they give him 2 games. Do you honestly think that Gary Bettman is going to overrule George Peros?
No.
Of course he's not. So what was this waste of 48 hours? It's pointless.
This was a Hail Mary by the Flyers because they still think they're in it to try and get in there against Washington. That's what it was.
Well, it's more than that. I think it's also you make these kind of statements, you make these kind of things to benefit yourself down the line. You know, like if another Flyers player comes up, the theory.
I don't know if that's changing anything. I doubt it. I know where you're going, but I don't think it's going to change it.
But it's worth it. It doesn't cost anything to appeal this, and to make them feel like, you know, to make
everybody
know that they're very upset with it. You know, like that's basically what they're doing. And it
did cost Comcast like a 4-star hotel in New York City yesterday,
which I'm sure they have, which they probably own. You know, it's like kind of like
it's sort of like that line from A Few Good Men. It's like I object, overruled. I strenuously object.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So
I mean, the NHL though can't. There should be a thing on appeals, perhaps, that like anything less than 3 games, three or less, should not be able to be appealed, in my opinion, because it's like it's kind of ridiculous. Like you really get like a, you know, I mean, if that's the case, if you're going to appeal 2-game suspensions, everyone's going to appeal every suspension, and then we're going to have a mess.
Right.
You know, I don't know where you put that limit, if it's 3 games or above.
But they can do it anyhow. I mean, there's no stopping them. I really think they did it because of their faint playoff hopes. No other reason. I think if they were out of the playoffs, they would not be doing it.
Did you say fake?
Russ, I was gonna say you threw in the word as a dagger to Eck. Faint.
Yeah.
Faint playoff hopes. And that is true.
This is not a dagger to Eck. Like, this whole thing is completely. I'm sold on this. The way I'm being sold down, it's just terrible.
You're wearing a Philadelphia hat right now.
I'm the victim, damn it.
Look at the hat. It says Philadelphia.
I know. I couldn't find anything else. I was felling a tree. Okay, I look horrible. You don't want to hat on.
Hey, let's go bring out my Leafs notebook.
We live there. That's where I live. It's okay. Yeah. So.
And it just happens. It just happens to be an orange
on my
hat.
chainsaw this afternoon, Mike. If this case continues, I do not care if the Flyers make the playoffs. I am not. I mean, that's not what I'm saying here. Is that, you know, what I do find infuriating, like I've said many times, is the people who say that there's no chance that teams who have a chance to make the playoffs are not going to make the playoffs. That to me is ridiculous, and no one seems to care. But that's all right. I'm fighting my own battle. People out there I know have my back.
All right, Eck, I'm going to just speak in like realistic terms. In realistic terms, for all the euphoria of the Flyers getting within 3 points yesterday, they woke up and lost 2 points.
Well, they didn't play, and the other teams did. What can you do about that?
Well, but that's my point. That happens 1 or 2 more times. It won't matter what they do.
Right.
It's true.
That is my point exactly.
That's true, but it might not happen 1 or 2 more times. You know.
Oh my God. Whatever.
What do the Flyers have to do?
Odds are it will, because most of these teams are playing well down the stretch. That was my point yesterday. Nobody's playing.
They haven't been playing well down the stretch. That's crazy. I mean, can you?
500 in this league is playing well.
Right. See, there's
other bad teams that you were calling bad, and now Columbus is over 500 in their last 10. They're all at 500 or above. The 2 teams that you thought they might be able to get in there.
The point of view here, and this goes for, you know, teams that are this goes for teams that are trying to catch up in the West as well. For the teams that are in the playoff spots right now, it's not simply they need to go 500 and you need to go 9-3. It's they need to go 3-9 or 4-8.
Right.
And you to go 9-3. It's getting to the point where it's almost impossible, and that's why the odds are so long. So it's like, I mean, is it within the realm of possibility? Sure. I mean, Andrew Hammond carried the Ottawa Senators on his back to the playoffs by going 22-1 in his last 23 games or something ridiculous like that. If that's possible, anything's possible. But I'm just saying it's not likely.
Perfect example. Flyers could play the game.
It was likely.
But here's a perfect example. Flyers could play the game of their life against Washington. Maybe Carter Hart's in there. Maybe he isn't. They go to overtime and they lose. They get 1 point.
Right.
They need 2 in all these wins. If they
they need Columbus to lose. The Columbus's next 3 games are Carolina, which is, that's a tough one.
It's a tough game, sure. But they might get a point. That's my point.
And my prediction thing has them getting a point in that. That's fine.
And that's the worst case. That's the worst case scenario for the Flyers is a 3-point game in that scenario.
Correct.
No, I know it doesn't help them, but it still doesn't. Now, actually, to be fair, I'm going to throw this out there. As of this morning, the Flyers are not in the playoffs on my predictor, but only because of they're the same amount.
Let us know that.
Well, no, they're the same. Listen, they're the same amount of points.
No. You should have said that at the beginning.
No, I'm saying. Actually, no, they're the same. Yeah, they all have 98 points, but Carolina.
But they lose the row. Hold on. Here's the other thing the Flyers lose on is the row.
Right. That's why they're out in this situation. Yes.
Correct.
Now, so they play so Columbus plays Carolina, they play at Boston, and then at Calgary. Those are the next 3 games for Columbus.
Well, Boston just lost. They stink.
They lost 2 in a row.
Twice in a week are not great. Especially when you
go. What does that have to do with anything? Somebody beating somebody twice in 1 week.
Because why
does the odds change on that?
Because we see it all the time. You know that.
No. I don't know if we see that all the time down the stretch. We saw
it last week with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh and Columbus is a good example. Last week you saw Pittsburgh historically beats Columbus almost all the time, but when they play close together, they tend to split. It's just and it's not all the time, but it's hard to beat a team back to back.
It's like a double header in baseball. Like 75% of the time they split the double.
Yeah, like a good team back to back and stuff. So then they go into Edmonton. We know Edmonton's going to be fighting for a playoff spot at that point.
This is a high school conversation.
And they still have Boston again. They've got Boston twice more after last night, which was impressive that they beat them. And they have the Predators again. So they've got teams. They've got Columbus. They can lose 2 points in there somewhere. It's like that's all you're looking at. That's all they have to do. So, this is I think Columbus is going to make the playoffs. I think they are, but what?
What does the predictor say?
The predictor right now, as of now, says that the wild cards will be Montreal and Carolina, and Philly and Columbus. Neither of them will make the playoffs. That's where it is right now.
Sis boom ba.
But Montreal, Carolina, and Philly all have 98 points. So we're looking at like a situation that's very variable depending on But Montreal has to win all their Montreal has to win all the games they're supposed to. Carolina has to win all the games they're supposed to make that happen.
Okay.
So and Edmonton's still in the playoffs as of now. So there you have it.
Is there anything else left in the show?
Well, I was just gonna say because the Canadians won yesterday 3-1.
How is that possible? They stink.
Yeah, I know.
Detroit.
On the strength of Carey Price, who made a couple unbelievable saves.
Yeah, and kept them in a game against Detroit.
One on a Tyler Bertuzzi breakaway. He's now the all-time leader in career wins for the Canadians, passing Jacques Plante, which is
it's a little bit loaded because of the shootout era. I get it.
Yes, it is, but it still is a remarkable feat.
It is.
It's incredible. And he's obviously a great goalie, and he's gotten his mojo back this year, which is wonderful, because it sucked when he was terrible this year when, this is the first year of a mega contract. But it's great that he's back. Montreal's next games, New York, the Islanders, Blackhawks, Flyers, Islanders, next 4 games for
that's 2 non-playoff teams. Blackhawks and Flyers.
I'm not going to see it that way.
The Flyers game is, of course, a battle for the playoffs because those teams will be like 1 point away from each other. So you're going to get
technically they're a non-playoff team.
As of now, they are. Chicago is a good Chicago is playing very well right now. So,
oh my God!
Then they've got Carolina, Columbus, and Winnipeg, and Tampa, and Washington, and Toronto. Look at Montreal's schedule. That is not. To sit there and say Montreal.
They do have Carey Price, and he is capable of winning some of these games.
He is, but you don't think the Flyers can catch them with that schedule?
Again, look, strength of schedule means something. Predicting the schedule this time of the year is hard. I will go with the better goalies over the tougher schedule. That's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, if I'm right, you guys can never again question my authority. Never again.
But listen, question your authority has nothing to do with this. Let me ask you this. As an example, all these teams have a set goalie. Who's going to be in there for the Flyers on Thursday? Nobody knows.
Yeah, I don't know. I might play.
Well, it's probably gonna be Elliott, and then it's probably gonna be Talbot.
I don't know that.
They're not going to play Elliott. It's going to be Talbot. Elliott just got smoked against Washington last.
It could be Talbot.
It'll be Elliott against Toronto.
Yeah, or it'll be Corey, or it'll be Carter Hart against Toronto. That's what I think. I think they put Talbot against Washington and Hart against Toronto. That's what I think ends up happening. That's what I heard, at least. But for what is, who knows? I mean, things could change, and things.
One of the
and again, the Flyers now. Washington again. This is the same kind of situation where Washington just beat the Flyers. It is tough for any team in the NHL for whatever reason when they play close to each other to beat them twice. We'll see what happens.
One of the games that sort of was lost in the importance last night was Dallas and the Sabres, and I watched a little bit of that one, in spite of the fact that the Sabres right now are really terrible, and they were without Eichel because he'd been suspended first game of the 2-game suspension, and this is the point with the Sabres. They have so few weapons that without Eichel, Skinner basically was the only guy who I think is, maybe Reinhart are the only guys who can generate offense. They played Reinhart on the 3rd or 4th line yesterday, which I didn't understand. And they could not generate many good chances. Ben Bishop has had a shutout streak now for over 200 minutes.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And well, you're right. But the thing is that the transformation, and this is the point I was trying to get at, the transformation of the Stars from a wide open offensive team, which, basically drove Ken Hitchcock into retirement. And now they're playing sort of strapped down defense, and they don't score a ton of goals, but their goaltender, when they have Bishop in there, he's done pretty well. The transformation's unbelievable. It's almost as incredible as the Islanders one.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, they are real. They are. I think we all sort of had mixed bags as to where we saw them finishing this year. I think I had them I think I had them out of the playoffs. Even. I know I had Anaheim out of the playoffs too. There's certain teams that you don't know, but they really have. They've really been impressive. I mean, and Bishop especially. I mean, we all know he's a great goalie. And the funny thing is, when I remember the first game he came back, he looked like he got hurt again, and I thought, oh man, because if he's injured, Dallas is definitely that's their whole game right now.
Then they're starting goalies Anton Khudobin, and you could say first round bye. But
yeah, because people don't care about backups anymore. So that's the whole thing. I agree with you. But the funny thing about last night, there were 2 games I was watching last night, which were really.
To update that. Carter Hart is starting Thursday. Just so you know.
He's starting against the Caps. That's gutsy.
Gutsy is not the right word, but okay.
It may not be the right word, Russ. I might agree. I do agree with you on that one.
A synonym for gutsy.
I don't think I would start against the Capitals right now. I wouldn't. I mean, that's like if he hasn't played for a while. Hell, yeah. I mean, it's.
Russ, should I break out Roger's thesaurus and find out if stupid is a synonym of gutsy?
No, this is fine. I think everybody gets the idea.
This is the perfect opportunity to actually play Cam Talbot. I mean, there's he played really well against the Capitals a week ago when he came in on relief. I don't understand that.
This would have been good for Talbot, and going hard against the Leafs would have been better.
Yeah, don't put and I mean, either both teams are great offensively.
No, both teams are really good, but you don't want to throw them in there. All Ovechkin's going to do is just bomb away, and this is a tough game to come back from injury when you haven't played in a while. Like, he hasn't played in any game, right? He's just been practicing. I would rather put him in against the Leafs. And look, the Leafs have a high-powered offense, but they don't have anybody that's going to potentially just put 10 shots on net with one guy in the game.
Oh, come on. Yeah. Come on. Freddie Gauthier can do that.
They don't have. I mean, no one else in the league has an Ovechkin. So that's you've never played Ovechkin. He's never faced Ovechkin in his career, and he's in a key important game like that. That's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, Gordon. The thing about Scott Gordon, and someone asked me the other day, what his deal is, and what I'm gathering from him is that he is really, really big on rewarding players for things.
Yes.
Like that, and that, to the point where You know, if Hart's playing well in practice, you know, or Elliott's playing well, he's not going to go to Talbot, even though they just traded for Talbot. They're going to stay with Elliott because he's playing so well. He's just his whole thing, and I've always admired coaches who do that because it definitely does show up as the season goes on. You know, and players respect that.
Yeah,
players respect coaches who do that. It's hard to argue.
Do a good podcast and they get rewarded with like an ice cream sundae. That goes a long way.
Exactly. Yeah, or take a boost or anything that you could possibly get. Yeah, so you know that's for sure. But I think that Gordon is driven. So my guess is that Hart has been working incredibly hard in practice, and he's like, I don't care that we got Cam Talbot for a situation just like this one. We're gonna put you in now because to reward you getting back and showing you that that you're our goalie and this is a big game. We're gonna have. So to me, that's like that's what it's now. Whether or not that works or not is another question. Right,
we'll find out. I'm just saying it's not ideal.
I don't think it is. I think with a young goalie especially, I think it's. I don't know. I wouldn't go that way. But anyway,
now Tom Wilson is going to run them a few times too.
The games I watched last night, though, I wanted to talk about for a second too, because the two games I watched.
Did you watch Sharks Jets?
Yeah, I watched the Sharks and the Jets. The West, I like to call the battle, the West Side Story battle. Yeah, so I'm a Jet, I'm a Shark. Yeah, exactly. So the Sharks and the Jets, what a game! That was an awesome game, and it really showed to me the Sharks are for real.
Well, yeah, but it also showed to me that the Jets really miss Morrissey and Bufflin because they worked hard to tie that game late. There was Matthew Perreault got the tying goal, and Ehlers made a questionable play in the zone, in the offensive zone, that led to a break going the other way. And Pavelski scores the winner with I think 3 seconds left. And I just had the feeling that if you have Morrissey and Bufflin back there, maybe they win that game, and that play is not. It doesn't cost them at least a point, and every point's going to matter right now between the Jets and the Preds. I look at the Jets and I see, there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of offense there. They lost Wheeler for a good chunk of that game with an injury, and then he came back. And it threw around their lines completely. I like the Jets a lot, but they need to get those players back. Otherwise, I don't think they're anywhere close to being as tough of an out as a lot of people think they are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that you don't have a lot. There's not a lot of room for error, with the Sharks. They're just such a solid team. They are playing. I mean, they have found another level for now, and the Jets haven't. The Jets have played really well all year, but they haven't found that level. And
the Jets just lost their field goal kicker. I'm really pissed off. This is like the only good guy on the team last year. Sorry, but it's true.
Somebody who signed him.
The Hawks.
There was an interesting. So Anthony in the chat room brings up a really interesting point. I thought about this too, and I guess this was discussed in Hockey Central, which I did not see because I was, like I said, felling a tree. But basically, I guess the idea is when Carlson comes back, does that screw with this great chemistry the Sharks have right now? I don't think so, because in the beginning of the year it definitely did, but I think as time's gone on, they've figured out. Carlson has figured out how to play in this group. So
I thought I heard Carlson's name last night during the play-by-play. So I didn't watch all the games.
I was watching most of it. I don't remember him in there. It may have been.
Yeah, I'm just checking right now, but I thought
like you played based on the chat room, and usually they're right and we're wrong. So.
Okay, yeah. I saw bits and pieces with the sound down, so I was like
100 of them and just 3 of us. So
true. But so they had great chemistry last night. There was a hell of a play by Pavelski, and actually the winning goal.
It was Melker Carlson. That's why. There you
go. The winning goal last night. Was Vlasic made an unbelievable play on it, and that was kind of like forgotten about that.
He overpaid Mark Vlasic.
He overpaid Mark Vlasic. The people rip on all the time. That play. The play that he made was just like crazy. I'll bring it up because I think people didn't even notice it. It was interesting because it's obviously a 2-on-1 and Vlasic's not involved. But without Vlasic making this play, it does none of this happen.
Well, I think he either intercepted or broke up the pass because Ehlers came into the offensive zone and tried to cross ice pass, and it was intercepted. And I think Vlasic is the one who intercepted it and sent it the other way, and that sent them on the break with less than 10 seconds to go.
Intercepted though, like he intercepted it, and so watch this here. Yeah, like this is like a great. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is a real this is a real like goal. This is a goal that the guy. All right, so you're gonna show the replay here. This is actually this is after the goal, but you'll see the replay in a second. I will pause it. So it comes right here. So when it goes across here, Vlasic's right there, and now that's Vlasic right there at 44. So he didn't just intercept it. He intercepts it.
He broke it up and knocked it forward. Yeah.
At the same time, so he breaks up the pass and pokes it forward, knowing that there's only like a few seconds left to go here.
Right. And if you miss, what's that, Russ?
Yeah, smart players do that.
Yeah, it was really solid, really good play. So,
that's why he's not overpaid.
And then the other game I was watching, which was really interesting, was the New Jersey Calgary game.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. All right.
From what perspective is that interesting? From the perspective,
for the first 2 periods, New Jersey's like winning. I mean, we're thinking this is crazy.
It's 4-3 after 2.
Yeah, it's 4-3 after 2. New Jersey's winning the game. 4-3.
Yeah.
And then Gaudreau just decides to take over. And it's the first time I've seen, in a very Patrick Kane like, way, like he
only had 6 points.
He had 6 points in the game, but he was not just that he had 6 points. He just completely took over the game. I mean, it was like, the Devils are winning this game, and I'm not going to let that happen. I love when players do that. Only a few players can actually pull that off, and he pulled it off.
I have to point this out because Russ has pointed this out before when it comes to the Devils, and last night was an illustration of this. Mackenzie Blackwood, who's a young goaltender, he's played well at times this year. He let in all 9. He was kept in for the entire game. What in the hell is John Hines doing?
I don't know. There's no benefit to that. Zero benefit. Zero.
Yeah. No, I
mean, that's something that scars young goaltenders.
I know. He kept him in. I know it was, and he was it wasn't his fault. He was getting shelled. No. I mean, Calgary just decided to win that game, and it was. I mean, every once in a while you see that, where you see like a team. Like I felt like, like I've seen Claude Giroux on occasion do this, and I think like he did it in the outdoor game when he got the puck and scored the game-winning goal. He had something on his. You could just tell that he was going to win the game. It's rare. It's fun to see. We've seen Crosby do it many times. It's just. It's fun to see when a player just decides they're going to win the game and they win.
And you know what? And raise your hand if you thought Matthew Tkachuk would be a 30-goal scorer in the league, because I didn't.
No.
30. I mean, Monahan I did, not Tkachuk. I thought he'd be in the 20s most of the
time. I thought Tkachuk was going to be good. I didn't think he'd be this good this quickly.
It's unbelievable. The development on him.
The Tkachuk kids are better than his father.
I'm sorry?
I think both. It feels like both the Tkachuk kids are actually better than their father. And
that's we have to.
Not as goal scorers all around, yes, but not as goal scorers.
I mean, they're still early. They're both putting 30 goals. Is like
the goal is very high though. That's a lofty goal.
I know, crazy. I wanted to throw a shout out to Ben Shelley, who has started writing on Hockey Buzz as an Islanders blogger. Doing a great job. We need an Islanders blogger so badly. I was doing it whenever I could. We've got a great Islanders community. So if you're on there, give Ben a follow on Twitter. Go say hi to him on his new blog. He's going to really lend a lot for that team. That is going to be fascinating to follow down the stretch for sure.
I'll tell you what. I'll say hi to him when, matter of fact, when he posts the petition for Belmont. This is something that's a little worrisome for me. There's a petition going around now on the internet to speed up or even just get this process going for the Islanders to get their rink in Belmont. And although we're being told everything is on track, which is not entirely true because it is behind schedule for what we originally were told.
Yeah,
but these are the bad signs. Like, it could be going great, right? But right now in the public eye, nobody thinks that. The Islander fans don't think that. Everybody's worried about it because of what's happened before. Yeah. And when you see a petition like that, it's a little worrisome.
And when you get tied up in Long Island politics, and we know how corrupt that is, all you think about when it's related to the Islanders is the Lighthouse Project and how that was something that started and stopped and was up for referendums and nothing happened. And in the end, it was a shell game that never. That you never found the P, and this is the problem. It's like, okay, are they going to the NHL at a certain point? Are they going to say, oh, we're okay with you staying at Nassau Coliseum and with its 13,000 seating capacity. No, they're going to say we want you to have a big building, and if they don't build one, then they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I mean,
all right, here's an example of what you're up against.
Okay.
So there's like a comment and a response for still questions being asked to the township about the new arena. So somebody says, hey, will celebratory fireworks, beer trucks, or parties be held in the north lot? And the response is, as detailed in the draft scope with the proposed project in the north lot is expected to be used for parking. Currently, the New York Racing Association doesn't allow for tailgating, including on Belmont Stakes days. NYAP would also prohibit tailgating in the north lot.
Wow.
So just imagine now if they have a new place and you're not even allowed to tailgate.
Yeah, see that you're like for example, in Buffalo, there's been a lot of talk about in the future them building a downtown stadium, maybe a dome, but a downtown stadium near the waterfront, near where the current arena is, and there's a lot of urban renewal going down there. They probably will not allow tailgating because tailgating is open flames and things of that nature. And, the destruction, there would be some destruction of the parking lot, and obviously people will be getting slammed through tables. They're not going to allow that. So that is one of the reasons why a lot of people want the Bills to stay in Orchard Park. That is a popular thing. And I'm sure that's going to be a problem for the Islanders if they don't, if they're going to go to a new facility and they don't allow that, that's going to turn a lot of people off.
Yeah.
Well, here's another article that's out there. It says influential Queens leaders have yet to embrace the Belmont Park plan, and they're worried about traffic.
Remember, and you know what the Islanders are bad? What the Islanders are really bad at, Russ, and they've always been bad at this, and I don't understand why, because they've got some good people there working for them, is PR, man. The Islanders are terrible at PR. They really just, I mean, they
sit back too much. They sit back too much on this. Like, if they were a little bit more transparent, because right now is the time for them to come out and say something, because this is what the fans want, and this is what everybody's looking for. I can read you another 5 articles that are trying to throw cold water on the deal. And I'm not saying the deal's dead. It's not. But I'm just saying the discussion keeps going. And as the longer the discussion goes, the worse it could get.
And if you wanted positive PR, I mean, I'm not saying this is a slam against him because I have a lot of respect for Lou Lamoriello, but he's an old school guy who keeps things close to the vest. And in this instance, you probably want some openness and you want some generation of positivity when it comes to like their direction and their thought about a new building. And he's probably going to just keep things tight. And that right now it's like, that's not the way to approach this, but that's the way it's gonna be under Lou.
Yeah.
I mean, well, with Lou, I mean, I think you're misinterpreting Lou a little bit there, because Lou is not. When it comes to the fans, Lou is all about that. Like he's all about the fans knowing what's going on. He doesn't want us to know what he's doing with the team, but when it comes to something like this, I think that he would absolutely want the fans to know what's going on. Like he would, I would he would be pushing hard to get them to do that.
If it's positive, I think you're right. But if it's muddled like it currently is, I think they're.
Well, that's fine, because when you don't say anything, the perception starts to come out like, well, maybe it's bad, and maybe that's why they're not saying it. Right. So I mean, I don't know that we don't know that it's bad, but
wait, hold on. So this is not good. Pat LaFontaine now is partnering with the proposed $1 billion arena and convention center in Ronkonkoma, which is further out on the island. Like this now again.
Is that in Suffolk?
Yeah. So now,
oh my God.
So this is when you need to come out and squash this. You do.
Yeah, you do.
Are they going to build a building on Long Island Sound?
LaFontaine's a name. Like once people see that, it's like, uh-oh.
He's very, very political, Pat LaFontaine.
He is.
He's been screwed over by that organization.
Yeah. No, he hasn't, and he's called. I've talked to him on occasion just about things over the years that are very surprising. Like that he's extremely. He wants to be an owner at some point with it. He's definitely, there's all kinds of things. So when he does something like that, it does tell you something's up with it.
Well, there's a battle about which organization has screwed Pat LaFontaine more, the Sabres or the Islanders.
I think he would say the Sabres.
Yeah.
Although let's not feel bad for Pat. He's made a lot of money.
No,
Like,
Pat's
it's not
fine.
like he's hurting for
I
money.
like Pat LaFontaine, and I think he's but he's definitely he's a proactive guy on things like this. So you'd have for a player, like a lot of players made their money and they'll get involved in things, but he's actually aggressively involved in things. So
Yes.
and once people know he's aggressively involved in things too. Like this story it's not like a leak that I'm sure this leak came from Pat LaFontaine, who said that he did this. Like this is not. I mean, I don't know that for fact, but I'm just saying that this is the kind of
He's
thing.
made almost $24 million in his career. So like,
Okay.
He's a hell of a player and all kinds of things. But
Here's a bit of trivia that I never thought that this guy would be the answer to. We've noted before the struggles of former Dallas first round pick and former KHLer Valeri Nichushkin. Nichushkin has a stretch of 48 games without a goal and without a penalty. That is the longest. Wow. That is the longest streak in the history of the NHL for a non-goaltender.
Wow.
That's a crazy stat.
That is unbelievable. I saw him last night.
The history of the NHL, the history of the league.
In the history of the league.
That's crazy. Like, that's mind-blowing. You have to really think about that for a minute, because if nothing else, if that were me, right, I would be frustrated by not scoring, and I would have slashed one or two players.
And that's courteous. That's
I mean, to put that in perspective, all of us have either all of us have done that as well. Like, not got a penalty minute or a goal in the NHL for the last 48 games. It's hard. It's like
so the lockout season, the 2012-2013 season was 48 games. That means he went without a penalty or a goal for that entire season.
I mean, you would think if you weren't scoring, at least frustration would take over, right? And you would at least get a goal, get a penalty to show that you're alive. You would have to. I mean, I've talked to people about this before. Like, there are players, that need to get hit in order to sometimes feel engaged in a game. Like, there are some players that purposely you never touch, because you're like, the scouting report is, don't touch that guy, because if you just let him do his thing, he won't become really a factor in the game. But when you hit him, he gets angry.
Now that was courtesy of Sean Shapiro, who covers the Stars for The Athletic. The question I have is, if Dallas makes the playoffs, what are the odds that he gets his first penalty or his first goal in the first playoff game for the Stars?
Right. I mean, you just never know.
It's another Riley Sheehan where he does nothing for the entire year and then breaks out and scores 3 goals in the last 4 games.
It's really crazy, because he definitely is not that kind of player. I mean, he was a kind of player. He's a scorer. It's like, this is nuts.
Well, Russ, the funny thing is that his career has never been the same since that hip injury. And remember, he was a rookie. He had a promising rookie year, and then he had a hip injury where he missed most of his sophomore season, and then he ended up, because of Lindy Ruff and some difficulties in Dallas, he ended up going to the KHL. His numbers were not great there, and now he's come back and done this. I'm actually surprised Dallas didn't put him on waivers and try to send him down to the Texas Stars. Would anybody have picked him up? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think somebody might have, though, because he is still fast at the end of the day, and then you hope for the rest.
Yeah.
You'd have to have the right person on you have to have the right Russian person on your team to be able to get him straight. Like, if you had like somebody like the Capitals would be worth taking a shot. Or the Penguins, to put him like with Ovechkin and Malkin so he could learn something. But that's definitely got to be an issue. I mean, so there's somebody who sent me. I love this guy who sends me all this stuff about who could possibly be eliminated. So like, there's an elimination night actually that could happen if the Devils lose tonight. In any way at all, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. Just so you know, that's like the other day.
That's weird because Detroit was eliminated yesterday, and Detroit was ahead of them in the standings. Maybe the Devils have more games left.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I'm not sure, but it says to me in I don't know. I'll read you exactly what was written here to me. So. And I think this guy also is on Reddit, so it might be on Reddit too. But
okay. Here's
the idea is that because the Columbus Blue Jackets and Montreal Canadiens play each other at some point, and someone has to get a point out of the when they play each other. Here's the New Jersey Devils can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss of any kind, regulation, overtime, or shootout. This is due to the fact that Montreal or Columbus will finish with a minimum of 83 points as they both play each other on March 28th. So that's what
I do want to say that in the New York Post, Ledecky came out after Saturday night's game and said everything's still on schedule. So that's in lieu of PR act. That's what they're going to do is just let him keep going.
But if that's true, then like have like a invite the press out for things and like say, okay, we're doing this. Like we're I mean, all the stuff like that happens when an outdoor game comes to town. Like there's like 25 press events.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're building this arena or whatever, invite press out for all this stuff. Show them a PowerPoint or something. I mean, just
this hasn't been definitively reported, but they're saying for next year the Islanders are going to split time between Park Place and Nassau.
Yep. I've seen that.
I mean, okay, folks. Then you wonder why Tavares left.
Right.
Don't give me this crap that he stabbed the organization in the back or he lied to him. It's a Mickey Mouse organization when you can't decide on one building or another.
They're going to
have options.
They're going to have to pay their UFAs a little bit more to deal with it for the next couple of years.
They are. Because that's a pain. That is a pain in the ass to do. Go ahead.
Thomas is an Islanders fan in the chat room. Said something that I think is interesting about this whole LaFontaine thing. That there's Be Easy is also saying that there's like they're building an AHL arena out in Ronkonkoma. Sorry, I'm not a Long Islander. But Ronkonkoma.
All right, I wouldn't know if I wasn't, right? So I wouldn't have.
Yeah. So, I would know because I worked at the bank and we had branches in Long Island. So.
Okay.
Maybe this is an AHL project and all this stuff, but still, like it's easy to fix this kind of stuff. We had a couple milestones last night we need to talk about.
We already talked about Price.
We talked about Price, but we also had Malkin getting his 1,000th NHL point.
Yeah. It's incredible. I remember, I think I wrote the first article on NHL.com about Malkin back in the day. It's just he's 31, 32 now. It's like it's wild that
he's still not in the top 100.
Well, that was a hoax. Okay, let's not even go there. If you want to be realistic about that, that's ridiculous. But because we're going to talk about Malkin, he's going to be one of the 5 best Russian players of all time.
Of all time, easily.
Of all time.
Easily. And, so he and Ovechkin drafted the same year, right? They were 1-2. Were they 1-2 in the draft? Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like the only time ever Russians have been.
Lose. Like that was a can't lose draft right there.
Right. That wasn't Lemieux and Kirk Muller.
They both last night in the same night in the same
or
game.
Lindros and Pat Falloon.
Oh.
Right. In the same game, Ovechkin got his 1,200th point. Malkin got his 1,000th last night. So, which is impressive on both levels. I mean, obviously 1,200 points is impressive, but when you think about Malkin and Ovechkin and all the injuries Malkin has had and stuff like that, that he's only 200 points behind Ovechkin is surprising to me. Like for some reason,
and Vladimir Putin just posted a smile emoji.
Who did?
Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, we can't even mention it, or else our show will be banned.
Those are his buddies.
Yeah, so it's really impressive. I mean, I remember I went to Malkin's first game in the NHL when I drove out to Pittsburgh to see it, and still to this day, I think that he is maybe the most complete hockey player that I've ever seen. Like, and just from all around, and I think he hasn't shown that
anything he wants to do on the ice. That's really true.
Yeah, he can, and it's just like. I mean, he passes. He's an unbelievable passer. People don't give that credit. Give him credit for that too. He can hit people like crazy. He can skate like the wind. He can shoot like crazy. He's impossible to get off the puck. He's really good defensively when he wants to be. He's just got everything. I mean, it's nuts. And if he had been anywhere else,
a great mustache. To be honest, his mustache. He needs a better mustache game. But other than that, he's got everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
He's never had a good mustache. It's true.
If he had been someplace besides Pittsburgh, maybe he would get more credit for that. And also, but the way he's handled it in Pittsburgh also is a credit to him, because he's really handled the situation well, being like the second guy. And he's like you say, one of the best players of all time. He's never going to be the best player on the team.
Sorry, from Hockey Reference, here's players that he plays like. And similarity scores: Marcel Dion, Brett Hull, Teemu Selanne, Nels Stewart, Eric Lindros, Gordie Howe, Jaromir Jagr, Yari Curry, Jerome McGinley, Joe Thornton.
Yeah, old poison Nell Stewart is the only one that doesn't sort of fit in that. But
I guess Nell's probably next 12 years probably weren't great. That's probably what it was.
There's definitely some Lindros in him for sure. I agree with that one. All those players, but he has
there's something about all those players that do fit in Malkin, just aside from points, because he can play a lot of different roles. You know what it is? Like Magic Johnson in basketball could play center, he could play guard, he could play forward. Like Malkin could really play anywhere except goalie. Let's not get crazy. And he's not going to play defense, but he could play a center, wing, doesn't matter.
People forget, it was like the last of that era, but Malkin's like crazy escape from Russia, that happened, like where he was like with his Madagascar team or whatever it was, and he left in the middle of a tournament and suddenly was, it was nuts. I mean, it was back in the days, the last of that kind of era where the Russian players had to and they didn't know he didn't know when he came here, didn't know how his family would be affected, or it was really a dangerous thing for him to do. That was really something. And also last night there was another one. Joe Thornton passed somebody on the record. I'm trying to remember who this was, but Joe Thornton had
Stan Mikita.
Stan Mikita, thank you.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Thornton passed Mikita. And Joe Thornton has had like a little bit of a revival this year. It's been kind of forgotten about in the whole thing with the San Jose. But Thornton, who like every year keeps like signing these 1-year deals, has actually been better this year than he's been like the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, he's been without injury, and that's the thing. It's like if he would agree to signing a, say, 1-year, $3 million deal instead of like getting 8 like he did the year that Marlowe went to the Leafs, or I think he got 5 in the neighborhood of 5 or 5.5 this year, to help out the Sharks, because they're going to have to pay Pavelski, and maybe if they want to try to keep Carlson, they're going to have to try to fit those in. If he takes a lower salary, then he could, he would play another year. But if he wants to get every dollar he possibly can, then he may have to go play someplace else. I can't perceive him leaving San Jose, but he's got to take less to in the twilight years of his career, because his production is going down.
I think he will take less. I think the likelihood is he takes like a $3 million contract or something like that.
Yeah,
and just because especially if the Sharks are that close to winning, because for him winning with the Sharks would mean more than anything.
Yeah, in the category of for going from bad to worse, Mark Crawford announced that Thomas Chabot, who's probably the only, other than Cody Ceci, is the only good NHL defenseman on the Senators, has a broken toe and is week to week. So that probably means he's out for the season.
Yeah, that probably does.
Yeah, it does. I agree. I guess that's all we got today, guys. Tonight there's only 3 games. It's a really light schedule.
Highlight is Chicago, Toronto.
Classic original 6 battle.
Yes, one team that's still battling for a playoff spot, according to somebody on this panel.
Yeah, the Oilers are going to have the Oilers take the Devils tonight. The Oilers can help their playoff chances and to eliminate the Devils' playoff chances with a win tonight. And that's possible. And this is a big game for the Oilers. This is their game at hand, like we talked about. So this puts them into the same position if they win tonight as the Flyers. And then the Canucks and the Rangers are playing in what is pretty meaningless.
We're fatigued. We let you slip that in, but we're just fatigued at this point.
Well, the only thing, Quinn Hughes will not play in that game. They did sign him to his ELC, but he has a bruised ankle or foot. Yeah. So he's probably.
I really can't wait to see Quinn. I'm such a huge Quinn Hughes fan. I can't wait to see him play. He's such a slick player to play, and so fast and so smooth out there. Jeez.
For the only time in my life that I would ever root for the Vancouver Canucks. I actually would root for them to get Jack Hughes, to win the lottery and get Jack Hughes, because I think having Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes along with Pettersson and Besser would make them a dynamic team of the future.
You've never had brothers in Vancouver that I can remember.
Yeah. I don't think so. I can't remember any.
Actually, I've got a little bit of breaking news. Hold on.
Did Thomas Gradine have a brother? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, right. That was it. Or Kirk McLean.
I see that the Red Wings signed Ryan Kuffner, and
yes.
That's interesting because I was talking to a Red Wing scout at one of the Princeton games this year, so not shocked.
Yeah, I must have read your article.
Very, very cool. What do we think?
He didn't need to.
Is he going to? What difference is he going to make in Detroit? Do you think?
Well, he's a goal scorer, so I mean that's a guy who, if he can continue on his rise, and they'll definitely put him in Grand Rapids for a year or two, I'm sure.
Right. But they might. You never know. They might play him down the stretch because if it might be.
They might give him a look-see and just see, what he can do first,
and burn the first year of the contract. That might have been part of the agreement.
It might be, but he is a goal scorer by nature, and so he's not as fast as Verano, but he's still a good skater. He does play a two-way game. He's going to need to score goals though if he's going to stay in the NHL.
Right.
Got it. All right, cool guys. Enjoy tonight. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.